Hey folks, today we're going to talk about a problem so pervasive and so complicated that most of you don't even know it's a problem. And that's a problem. So we're going to talk about case sensitivity with IFC GUIDs and the fact that Power BI is not case sensitive. So a couple years ago, I was talking to Jean-Marc Couffin about Power BI, and he said very bluntly, we can't use Power BI because it's not case sensitive, and therefore IFCs don't work with it at all. Now, I dove into this over the last years, and we've come up with some solution for things like, for example, if there's 10 different misspellings with the cases in a family or a parameter name or a parameter itself, we can differentiate that and everything. But the issue of the IFC GUID is a bit more important because the IFC GUID is what's going to connect to your COBie document and to the Revit data and anywhere else where they're using the IFC GUID for the data connection. So it should be a perfect connection. So first, let's look at the problem. What do we mean when we say case collapse? So the unique IDs of the IFC GUIDs are 22 characters, and they are case sensitive, meaning that these three are all different, right? If it's a lowercase z, it's not the same as a higher case z, and so forth. So these are not the same when you consider case sensitivity, whereas if all of a sudden you don't have any case sensitivity anymore, well, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. Therefore, things that should be unique start to clash and have collisions with each other, and then they're no longer unique. Now, you would think that it's not that big of a deal because what are the odds that these numbers are going to repeat themselves? But it turns out because of the way that Revit creates the GUIDs, which is incrementally, it's over 5 to 8% of your IDs which are collapsing with each other. And so, for example, these two elements here, they are seen as the same thing because their GUID has only one letter with a different case on it. Now, to truly understand the problem and the solution, we have to look at what the heck these GUIDs are. Well, they're a 128-bit number. And what that means is that despite them looking like they're numbers and letters, they're actually just a really, really, really long number. So they have 340 undecillion permutation. And so why this leads into the solution is that really when we're looking at the IFC GUID, it's just one way of looking at that really, really long number. Not only that, it's a compressed way of looking at the number, which makes it shorter but case sensitive. So this is what we're looking at on the left. It's 22 characters. Now there's another way to look at the exact same number that means the exact same thing. And this is going to be 32 characters instead of 22 characters, but it isn't compressed and it is not case sensitive. So maybe you're already starting to see where our answer is going to lie for this. Basically, if we're in a case insensitive environment, we can use the canonical GUID, which is the 32 hex of the same number, and is going to be a perfect connection as long as we do the same thing in COBie, in Revit, in IFC. Now, there is a thing that it kind of becomes a bit complicated, right? Because as soon as you hit Power Query or Power BI, it's no longer case sensitive. So you need to do the transformation before it hits Power Query. And there's two ways you can do that. You can do it in Power Query if you write in SQL, because SQL is case sensitive. So you can do all of those transformations in SQL, which is what we used to do. But it means that you're doing the transformation once you receive the data from the database, which means that when you open your Power BI report and you load the data, well, it may take an extra 5 or 10 minutes to calculate all of those codes depending on the size of your model. So it's still possible and actually desirable to do this. For example, when you're connecting to COBie or anything that doesn't pass through Vim specifically. But for all the files that pass through Vim, so whether it's Revit or IFC, we are going to do this transformation for you automatically. So we read the data before it becomes case sensitive. We validate that it is actually a number, that the IFC GUID is valid. We convert it into a 32 hex string, and then we provide you the original that has the broken data, a copy that looks proper but cannot be used for data connection, and then we give you also what we call the GUID canonical, which is what should be used for the connection, which has a 32 hex and is suitable for joining the data. So this is what it looks like at the end. You have the three options. And when you look at the relation, you see the original here that, has been collapsed. You see the ones that looked fixed, but cannot be used for linking because they're using secret hidden characters. And then you see the canonical, which can be used for linking and is a perfect data connection. Now let's look at a model real quick and try to understand why this happens so often. So if we look here, for example, we see that the number inside a Revit has basically just been upped by 1, right? So it went from 15 to 16. That's the only thing that changed. And when you look at the compressed value, what that means is that the only thing that changed for the compressed value is it went from a capital I to a lowercase I. So already, whenever you have an increment of 1 that's being added automatically, or if you copy something and it just increments it by 1, you are going to be running into this issue and there's going to be a case collapse. So that's why it happens so often. Here we see about 5% of the model has the case collapse. And, this is a model with just under 4,000 elements. So that's quite a lot. That means a lot of your data, if you didn't know this, a lot of your data would be auto merging onto each other. And let's just look for a second at what happens when we select these case collapsed elements. We see that it's selecting more than one element in the model. So I think this is going to be the biggest data lesson we're going to see this year. And it's quite a tricky one. It's not a fun one to solve or even to get into or to explain to other people. So I've been actually pushing back this video release for a long time, but I'm quite proud of the work we've done in finding this, uncovering it, understanding it, and solving it. So what are the lessons? Never use the IFC GUID if you want to link inside of Power BI without first uncompressing them into a case-insensitive format. When you have those canonical GUIDs, you can use them to link Revit, IFC, and COBie. And of course, if you're going to be using Power BI for your BIM, you should use the best team, which is us. Now, what's the long-term fix? buildingSMART should consider using a case-insensitive GUID, or at least providing an equivalent 32x GUID so that people can use it inside of their Power BI report. Conversely, Microsoft Power BI should consider allowing case-sensitive data because it's so important in so many cases, and you're just going to run into nightmares if you don't do that. We've had to do quite a lot of effort to get over that hurdle, but we've done it successfully. All right, so that's it for this very obscure problem. I hope this was helpful to you. If you are doing some IFC GUIDs and you're using Power BI, please go and audit your data to make sure that your data, every single GUID is unique. So if you have more than one element per GUID, as we saw in there, you probably have a big data problem to solve. All right, so have a great day. Cheers. Bye.